One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't. First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk.
All right, welcome to a special, very, very, very special episode of One Guy's Seen It. This is the final episode on our series watching the stellar standout debut season of True Detective, the only good season of True Detective. Got my buddy Sumner on the podcast. Sumner, give me the skinny. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm feeling good. I've been doing health stuff to my body, so I've been feeling pretty good the last couple days.
Health stuff.
Yeah. Been going to a Japanese onsen and sweating out all the toxins from my body. It's been quite lovely.
And from what you told me, electrocuting yourself voluntarily.
Yeah, they do have this thing at specific onsens in Japan where you get into the tub and they have like little panels on the side that send little electric currents through the water, but it's really just kind of like a muscle stimulator thing. So you go to one side and like there's one that'll like send currents through the water and it's like right at the back, so it'll hit you right in the spine, but you can kind of feel it like through your like lungs and organs, so it's really weird. So I didn't know what it was the first time I went in there, and like honestly for like about 2 or 3 seconds I was like, oh shit, I'm having a heart attack. This is what it feels like to have a heart attack. It scared the fuck out of me, and then I looked over at the little sign, it's like pulse thing, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what this is. And it was but it was great though. I mean, it's you ever do those muscle stimulator things? You just like put them on your muscles and it kind of like contracts everything in your arm.
Yeah. Kaylee got me a stim kit because I've had like really bad pain in my guitar arm, in my left arm, like pain that kind of like radiates from my fingertips all the way to my my forearm tendons. And Kaylee got me a stim kit a couple years ago, and it really did some good work. Like, those are awesome. But you know what I'm convinced of, Sumner, is that the whatever these onsens are, the ones that have this electrical impulse ability or whatever, that they are actually being run by an agency of octopuses, and that what they're doing is getting the Japanese public used to it and believing that it's a healthy thing. And then one day, after the Japanese people have eaten whatever quota of octopus that the octopus overlords have determined, a felonious amount, they're gonna boost up the electronic frequencies and take out a huge chunk of people all at once. You wait, man. Consider this a warning.
So Jeff's mad at me right now because I told him that I've eaten octopus before.
I am mad at you. Nobody should eat octopus. They are people.
Look, it's just a part of the culture. Just sometimes you get a plate of fish sashimi, you got your tuna, you got your salmon, and then you have octopus. Sometimes it's just on there.
Sumner, and they have long-term memories. They have 3 hearts. How many hearts do you have?
And
none,
one not big enough.
Eat octopuses.
Yeah, you know what? I can't. You know what? We eat cows. Cows are sweet, lovely beings. They're like big dogs, and we eat them every day.
Yeah. Yes, but octopuses have sentience, man. They have complex thought. They can do calculus.
Oh,
cows
so you're saying
can moo.
You'd be
and
more okay
stand there and eat grass.
You'd be more okay with eating a dog than an octopus?
No, that's what I'm saying. Eating an octopus is like eating a dog. Seriously.
And eating a cow is like eating a dog.
No, dogs are way
thing.
more complex and loving creatures. No,
Have you seen the bulls that get sent to the slaughterhouse? The tears in their eyes? Have you seen those videos?
Sumner, none of this is important, okay? None of this is related to the fact that octopuses are people too.
They are people. I don't
Look,
I don't go out of my way to eat
the
octopus
cows,
or anything like that. I'm just saying, it just
the cows
No,
the cows will have their revenge, all right? Because the cows are clearly in bed with like Impossible Meat and all of these plant-based substitutes that actually,
Yeah.
I really hope do take over at some point. Because have you tried like an Impossible Burger or like an
Yeah, they're good.
Impossible sausage
I
patty?
like them. I know they're not good for you though.
They're
they're
good.
like so high in sodium though. They're like not good. But burgers are too, so it's not. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
I think.
I think like health-wise it's pretty comparable, but they really, you can't, like, I love watching the blind tests on YouTube where they'll give people like a regular sirloin burger and the Impossible Burger, and they really can't tell the difference. It gives me hope because from everything you see, it's just like completely unsustainable. Like the agriculture, world agriculture with cattle is so unsustainable. So there has to be a substitute because people want their juicy red meat.
Yeah,
it's a human instinctive desire.
No, Earth Burger's great. That's an Impossible Burger food chain, at least in Texas. I don't know if it's anywhere else, but they got some good burgers. The only burgers I've had here besides McDonald's, which are fucking everywhere in Japan, are ones that I've made here at home. I haven't had that many burgers since we've been here.
Nice. Well, and you said the McDonald's there is like way better ingredients, right?
Yeah, I mean it's all the same stuff, but they have more unique kind of options. Like they have their standard, Big Macs and Quarter Pounder Juniors and stuff like that. But they got like some seafood options, some shrimp stuff. It's really good
Shrimp
though. I mean,
at
like
McDonald's.
It's very consistent, like compared to the ones. I mean, like when you go to one in the U.S., unless you know that the place is good, like you're just kind of rolling the dice, just hoping it's okay. But like every time I've gone, I've been like, "Yep, that's McDonald's. That's pretty good. It's not bad." So I haven't had a bad one, bad McDonald's experience since I've been here. It's making me want McDonald's now. I'm kind of hungry.
I'm sorry. Yeah, look. The
okay.
Bottom line is, I forgive you. The octopuses forgive you. We are here to talk about
They don't forgive
the
me.
final. No, you're right. They probably don't. They're probably going to come after you.
They
and
never
I don't know if I
forget,
can
dude.
defend you.
You just tell me they never
don't forget. They have long-term memory.
Yes, we're here to
I'm
talk
pretty sure
about
that they
True
have-
Detective. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's okay. We can be done. We can be done talking about octopuses.
Well,
It's okay. Yes. Yes.
What do they have? Tell everyone.
They
Now-
could have telekinetic powers. They
No,
they
they
could
don't.
have you don't know that, man. We have no
If they're
idea
so smart,
how
how do
complex their
they-
brains are.
How do they not avoid the nets?
Do you know that the majority of their brain power is like in their tentacles and like the sensors? Like they basically have like,
and it's delicious.
like 30 brains.
I'm sorry.
God. All right,
I'm
getting fired up about
I'm saying this
our
as someone
octopus overlords.
that's eaten octopus. I've never eaten a live one because that creeps me out. I would never ever do that. But
Oh right, just like I would never eat a live person, but maybe
people do
if
that.
they came with my spaghetti.
No, there's some like sushi places that you can eat a live octopus if you want to.
Why? What fucking sadistic fuck would?
No.
Okay, you know what?
It's
We
real.
have to move on. Speaking of sadistic fucks, final 2 episodes
Yes.
of True Detective.
I didn't
Dude,
expect.
so kick things off. How should we do this? Do you want to do like your overall thoughts on the final 2 episodes, or do you want to just kind of get into episode 7?
Yeah, I guess we can do like a vague like overview because like now we've seen the whole show, or I've seen the whole show now, and then we
Right.
can get into like I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, I think the reason I do the episodes in chronological order is just because like it works better for my brain. But I mean, like we bounce around a lot. But I mean, I think I'll just kind of like give vague over thoughts, and then we'll kind of like run through them vaguely as we go along.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan.
But yeah, I loved it. I loved the ending of the show a lot, and was really pleased with the way that it ended. And I really didn't expect to like kind of cry like at the end of the series. The last scene of the show was so great, with Rust in the wheelchair giving that really good monologue to Marty, who, by the way, has some incredible growth Like, he's great in these 2 episodes. It really made me like him a lot. And
it's funny too, because like when you think about it, like objectively, his growth is just not being an asshole all the time.
Just being a decent dude. Like that's
it's just and it's like almost, you really don't even have a whole lot of evidence that he's become a decent dude. It's just the lack of dick things that he's doing that inherently makes him, you know what I mean?
Well, I think it's also that his life has become kind of sad, but that like his scenes with Maggie like really make him seem much more empathy. He's like not trying to be a dick. Like he's really trying to be cordial with her and like sweet to her, and like I don't know, it just works. And you also want to root for him, want him to make that change, so it's really satisfying when it does happen. But I loved it.
I mean, you've been rooting for him from the beginning, and he just keeps fucking it up, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like he's a piece of shit, but you can kind of tell that like there's a guy in there that wants to be better than he is, and he just never achieves it.
Right.
But I feel like he kind of earns a little bit of a redemption in the end. I think he earns his redemption in the end, actually. You know, I'll go as far to say that.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, just great. Just great writing and television and characters. See, that's the thing, too. It's like, with a show like this, with, you know, like the overarching true crime stuff, like, I think it runs a risk of getting stale on repeat viewings. But I think the thing that takes it over the top, like we've said before, is just the characters make the show work so well. Like you can come back to it time and time again and really like just get enveloped and, you know, just being with these characters. Really, not to be cheesy, but it just makes the show great. I just love it. Love all the characters.
No, to be honest, I was not worried, but I was really curious how a repeat viewing of a show, because really this type of series, I can't say there are too many shows where or just really too many shows, period, where I've rewatched a season, and you know, outside of like Band of Brothers, right?
Yeah.
And but like even the shows as great as like Breaking Bad and like Boardwalk Empire, like I've never really, other than maybe it being years and years and years apart and I've forgotten everything, I've never felt a need to rewatch a season of a show, and I was worried that it had been so soon since I'd seen this season, and I was like, you know, I already know what's going to happen. No, I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed every second of it again on a repeat viewing, even when I knew what was coming, because it's that good.
Yeah.
You talked about tearing up, you know, during obviously during Rust's monologue at the end. You know what had me tearing up was, like you said, seeing Marty just as a sad man with his little PI business. The him sitting at home alone eating his TV tray dinner. That had me tearing up, dude. But like you said, it's all part of his redemption arc.
Well, because it's like he was like the perfect man to be where he was like 10 or 15 years ago, and he just was not that guy at that point. And now they're kind of like in their twilight years, kind of reflecting on their life. It's really great, like the trajectory of their characters, because you can see them grow from like youngish kind of dudes to being middle-aged to being like not even old men, but you know, old enough to like be world weary in some sense and have some wisdom about life. And it's just like those like 3 separate stories of the same characters is really powerful. Like in the course of like 8 episodes, it really, and that's kind of something only TV can do, like make you like live with these characters for a really long time and experience their ups and downs in a satisfying way. And it's great. It's great stuff.
Totally, man. Well, okay, I think you're right. I think the only way really to do this is to go kind of chronologically here. I mean, I mean, pick us up, take us off from the beginning of this 7th episode. Like, what's going on?
Well, at the end of 6, Russ flags down Marty as they're leaving. I think as Marty's leaving, like his interview session with those 2 detectives that are trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. They don't really know what's up yet. So I think the first scene of this episode, they're having a beer at the bar and just kind of catching up. They haven't really talked to each other since they brawled in the last episode, which it's been a couple weeks since we we watched, so it was like it kind of felt like enough time had passed that like it felt I don't know, you kind of feel like the characters too a little bit. Like, oh yeah, shit, that happened.
Yeah.
They fucked each other up. So, you know, they get their reunion, and Marty has his, you know, one of his great quips. He's like, Father Time has a way of dealing with us all. Looks like he must have been pissed off at you. And he's looking at Russ.
Must have been pissed off at you. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you find out that Russ has been in Alaska for like the last 10 years. And, you know, just kind of falling off the grid. And then, but he had been working the case for the last 2 years consecutively. He just got obsessed with it again out of nowhere. And then he takes Marty to his little hidey hole, the one that he won't tell the cops about, his little shed of all his information about the case.
Yeah, his storage locker. Epic storage locker.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's a thing with like, he's like, oh, I don't trust the cops, you know, because he thinks it's all part of some cover up, which we find out that it, you know, probably was. There's probably some big cover up going on. But then he comes off
to Marty pretty quickly as full on conspiratorial, lost his mind in Alaska. Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think before he shows him some key pieces of evidence, and I think even from Marty, like he can be more dismissive early on in the show, but like even here, I think he's more even keeled. He's like, look, I know what you're saying, but this is all conjectural. Like, you know, doesn't really amount to evidence per se. You know, like he's actually thinking.
He's got to
like
give him this kind of like, do you even see yourself right now? Like, look at this place. Like you know,
yeah.
He looks like a cartoon of a conspiracy theory lunatic.
It's just great to see him in a role where he's actually being the voice of reason. Because I think early on in the show, he kind of plays the voice of reason. Like he thinks he's actually acting that way when he's actually being really hypocritical. But in like this last half of the show, he's actually like being good at what he does and like listening and like not being dismissive or too judgmental. It's just really refreshing for his character because he just like, he does some shit that you just like utterly despise him for sometimes, and then just to see him have this 180 of conscience is really great.
Yeah, you know what it is? He gets out of his own way for the first time in his life.
Yeah, he's not like too caught up on just like, himself. Yeah, exactly. He's just like willing to be there and listen and not, you know, just be an egotistical jerk about everything.
Yeah, man. We get probably. It's tough because McConaughey is so good in all of this show, but this, you know, these 2 episodes I think are peak performance for him, man. Like, he's just on his A game. Yeah,
and I think I will go on record saying this is my favorite thing Matthew McConaughey's ever done. Like, he really just fucking nails it. Like from beginning to end. And like I've said before, it's just like, you know, with all the memes about like McConaughey and his real life being like this overly like I don't know, existential dude. He's like marinating on the sauce of life or whatever, you know, whatever he does. Like his trippy Texas wisdom or whatever, you know, that he's known for. I was thinking it would fall into that, but it really never does, because I just think the writing and his monologues are so strong, and it really kind of holds the show together in a really great way.
I'm glad. You know, it's funny. I remember you saying that even after the first episode that you were pretty sure that this was going to be your favorite thing he'd ever done, and I'm glad that held up for you throughout the show.
Yeah, it's just like he just continued to impress me, and I think a lot of it had to do with his, like we said, this is like part of his reconnaissance. You know, with like this is like Dallas Buyers Club era.
Reconnaissance.
You know, where he like came back and like proved himself as like a really like serious actor, which is like, you know, like I think for a lot of people that can come off really cheesy, but somehow he just made it work. Like I think he's such a charismatic, likable guy, and he is actually a really good actor. Nobody gave him like the time of day like back in the day. They're just like, oh, he's like the handsome, pretty boy dude, but you know, give him all the credit in the world for going against type and just doing something that's out of his depth I think most people would think. But he could actually do it. He could do it really well. And be charismatic and be all these things.
Yeah. Yeah, but so I guess they're in the storage shed, right? And like you said, he's kind of struggling. He's struggling to get Woody, to get Marty on board, and then you get the videotape. Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, first you get this epic this epic scene of Rust breaking into all of, because he finds out, right, that there's this family, the Tuttles, this old school Southern Louisiana family that's been around since forever.
One of the preachers he met with was one of the Tuttles, and they're like, which I think he mentions, like, that guy died, like, between when he met him and, like, when the show picks back up in the future. Billy Ray Tuttle, I think, but
no. I think Billy Lee and
or Billy Lee.
I think Billy Lee was a different guy. I don't think, maybe I missed that, but I don't think that Reverend was a Tuttle.
No, I'm pretty sure he was. I think he was the brother.
I gotta know now.
Well, because, like, they were talking about him because he's like, you know who that is? That's Tuttle. He's the brother of the governor or something like that. Because, like, I'm pretty sure...
You're talking about Boardwalk Empire dude, right?
No, not him. The other guy, the, like, Baptist preacher dude. That,
yeah. Yes, that was Billy Lee. Yeah, sorry, I thought you were talking about the drunk preacher.
Oh, no, not Eli. Sorry, I only know him as Eli.
Yeah, no, same. I don't even know if he ever had a name in this show.
Oh, dude, but
anyways,
I loved his
the guy he confronted. Yeah, me too. We talked about him a bunch last episode, but yes, okay, sorry. Back to it. Yes, Billy Lee, I think, was the dude that Rust, like, confronts in 02. At his headquarters or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like you said, like, he ends up writing. Well, he's gone rogue pretty much, and that's one of the things I really appreciated about this show, because, like I said, with, like, true crime stuff, it has a tendency to. Well, I mean, it doesn't have a tendency. Like, by design, like, you're locked into the judicial system, like the court of, laws. And you're pretty tied to that. And what's interesting about this show is, like, for the first 6 episodes, they kind of do everything by the book enough. I mean, like, there's that one episode where he goes undercover, and that's kind of a gray area, but not really, because, like, they're doing it within, like, his previous experience, like, being an undercover agent. But, like, with this, they kind of go into this realm of, like, you know what, fuck the police, like, they're corrupt anyway, we're gonna do it our own way, and just pretty much do everything outside of the law completely in order to get this done, which I think is really refreshing in a show like this about, like, cops and robbers. They really toe that gray area really well, where they're like, you know what, fuck it, we're just going to do it and, like, dish out some frontier justice and just make this happen. And it's so like, refreshing. That's one of the things I think about the show that's so cool. Just because, you can get locked into that, like, we got to do everything by the book, do the law, like, and it's like with all those shows, they have that one character that he's, like, the no-nonsense, law-abiding guy, and then the guy that's, like, flies by the seat of his pants, like, do his own thing, the law isn't always right kind of dude. That's usually the pairing with, like, a buddy cop kind of thing. Like, one's by the book and the other's not so much. But they both respect the law. And they both respect the law, but in terms of what is moral and right and righteous, which is really cool. Really great, like, flip on that dynamic.
Yeah, and they're both fully aware of the limits of the law, right? Like, in what... Yeah. Like, they know, depending on what information they're seeking, what they're gonna have to do to get it. And... Yeah. But they almost needed to be... It's like they almost need... That's what's funny. It's like, for them to truly solve this crime, it had to happen this way, right? Like, they had to have all of this time with it to get to know all of the intricate details of everything that happened, but they also were never in a place until now where they could actually do these things, where they're both retired, but Marty still has access to whatever systems just because of his PI business, and they both kind of have nothing to lose, whereas earlier in the story, obviously Russ didn't have as much to lose, but now they really, neither of them really have anything to lose, and this is the one thing kind of hanging over their heads. Clearly more so for Rust than Marty, because he just kind of sucks him back in, but anyways.
Yeah, and it's really cool stuff. But
yeah, cool shit. We find out the Tuttles have been up to some shit, and then you get this video,
flock,
right? And
it's
that
was another thing too, with like why he didn't want them to go into the shed, which was like as soon as he showed Marty the pictures of like the child pornography, like you kind of get why he's got all this incriminating evidence in his shed. And he's like, yo, you can't show anybody that, like, because he acquired everything, and that was like the kind of double-edged sword. It's like he knew what he had. He knew he had hard evidence, but it was all inadmissible now because he stole it. He did what he did outside of the law, so now he's got to. So he knows he's right, but now he's got to find a way to like get to where he's going, which is interesting dynamic for the characters.
And he needs Marty.
Yeah, and then he shows him the video of what's her name?
Fontenot, I think was her name.
Yeah, Fontenot.
Marie Fontenot.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the video of her being murdered, or like up into like her being murdered, like with the guys in the masks.
Yeah,
and stuff.
that's the thing we don't know, but like based on everybody's reaction, I mean, clearly, I'm assuming some sexual assault and then her murder, just in this very graphic, ritualistic way on this videotape.
Yeah, just some horrible snuff film, and I would say like the Winter Festival, the blinders, the antlers, human animal masks.
Yeah. Well, dude, and going back, like we get that awesome scene, right, where Rust is he's staked out all three of Tuttle's houses to try to, and he ends up breaking into what I think he said was the Shreveport house, and he finds these photos and he finds the videotape.
Oh, that's right.
And he very quickly mentions that Billy Lee Tuttle, had died mysteriously, but that his theory is, he got wiped out because somebody stole his shit. Somebody knew that he'd lost it, and so basically Rust gets what he wanted to bring that guy down, but it happened just by way of his actions and what he took from him, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that is really cool, because it's just like it's so that adds another level of like intrigue to it, because like there's no telling how deep that goes, like if he was just disbanded so easily because of that. And then there's a thing with I think they mentioned like when like a lot of that happened with Katrina and stuff, when the Katrina hurricanes happened, and like a lot of records got lost, and it's like he just kind of went ham. Is like his theory is that like it was just the perfect time for him to strike, and he's like, he had a good year that year. I was like, oh, that is so disturbing.
Yeah,
but it's really
so
like,
fucked up. No, and that's a real thing too, man. Like I watched a documentary about like post Katrina crime in Louisiana, and there was it was a Wild West period for a couple years during the cleanup and the rebuild, like because there was just so little police resources, so little really resources of any kind. I mean, there's all this aid coming in, but there was an insanely massive uptick in like violent crime and sex crimes and all kinds of stuff, just because it was, it was madness. Yeah. So interesting that they weaved that into the plot, because it makes this guy getting away with some of this shit easier to digest in a way,
Yeah, and they tie it into like the time period, which I think is really cool. As like a person that likes history and like topical stuff, like I thought that was a nice touch. The way they weave that in there with like Louisiana history.
Yeah, and the weird voodoo. I don't know anything about this like ancient, old school Mardi Gras weirdness, but apparently it's a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting
about that.
shit.
Yeah. But there was one line I did like with Marty being like level-headed for I think he was always level-headed to a degree, but like this is the first time you see him like you feel like he genuinely is like means what he's doing, which I gotta give kudos to Woody Harrelson, because it was like in some of those early episodes I was like, I don't know, he's trying too hard to like do what he's doing, but like now seeing him in this like more matured version of himself, I was like, oh, that was all intentional, like what he was trying to do with the character to make him seem like so on edge and so like unsure of himself all the time. But now he seems so sure of himself and so level-headed and so willing to do the right thing. Like it just came across so well. Like they built all his shitty behavior up really well, and then like his redemption is so satisfying.
So that's cool. It gave you kind of a whole new appreciation for Woody Harrelson's performance.
Yeah, and I love Woody Harrelson too. It wasn't even that. I was just like, I don't even know what they're doing with the character right now. I wasn't sure if it was just, but they brought it all around really well. It's just not to harp on that too much, but I was just really like so satisfied with the way they did that.
Damn. Gotta love it, man.
Gotta love it. But yeah, even he's like, he's telling him all this stuff, he like shows him stuff. He's like, I think maybe you've been alone for so long. Maybe you've been drunk and you've told yourself these things over and over again and made this story in your head, like kind of thing. And, which I thought was like a pretty
reasonable reaction.
Yeah, pretty reasonable reaction. And then I think he shows him the video right after that or something like that.
Yeah.
And
but that's a big moment. Everything's starting to come into picture.
Yeah, and I just like that they're a team again. They just work so well together. They're just such a great duo.
Yeah, a little bummed there was no like boys are back in town slow-mo montage playing as they drove down the highway.
A really out of character moment like that in this really brooding dark show. But yeah, and then we get a call back to the circular thing where McConaughey
the spiral, yes.
Yeah, he's talking to him about like my whole life has been a circular fuck up. He's talking about like when he broke into the house and like I could get clipped on a B&E just doing this. And I think he says something funny too. He's like talking about breaking and entering to Tuttle's place. He's like in my mind while I was doing it, I feel like I had gone insane. Like I had truly lost my mind.
Yeah.
And then he ends up finding something.
Helps ground it a little bit.
Yeah, but it's just like, I think if Rust wasn't as self-aware as he was, like his character wouldn't work as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's like you said, like a level of like groundedness to his character that makes him realistic. Whereas like if he was just spouting off all this philosophical shit without any of that like inward reflection, it would come off really like, I don't know, pretentious, I guess. like his like going off on those philosophical monologues, like if he didn't have that self-awareness, it could come off really pretentious, but him being aware enough of himself and like who he is and what he is really makes it I don't know, it just come off as more human than it would have otherwise. So I don't know, just a great little thing about his character that makes him not like a pretentious asshole. Like it makes him like a real person that you care about. And dude, I fucking love this show so much, dude. I could talk about this show all day.
I'm so glad. Yeah, we haven't even got anywhere. We're still in like the first. I know. Yeah,
we're still in
episode.
like just the nuts and bolts. We haven't even gotten to the good stuff yet.
Oh yeah, man. Okay, so. So that's what we learn, right? And so they need to start going through like case files.
Yeah.
And so that's when you find out about the Katrina shit, that everything before everything before '05 is not even in the system. It's all just paper files, and a lot of it's been lost.
Which
like
I love that
flooding and
I love that detail where he's like going through the computer because he has to go to the chief now and be like, I'm writing a true crime novel, and I need to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a small thing, just like to get his foot in the door, but I just love that thing, and he's like, yeah, sure, man, you can do whatever you need to do. Like I just like that little little detail.
He brings him a bottle of scotch.
Yeah, he brings him a bottle of scotch, and he's like, look at all their case files. But yeah, the guy's like, yeah, everything before like '05, he has to go in the back room and like look at all the paper files, which there's just boxes and boxes of. It was just such a great moment. And to Marty's credit, that's also part of his growth. He just takes it on full head and really does a good job about like going through like tax records and like shit like that, like little nitty gritty shit. And he really finds some good stuff. And like that.
Well, and I think it's deeper than just his sort of his development as a person, right? Because really, when it comes down to it, I think obviously the videotape and finding out that Rust is really onto something, that this thing goes deeper than Ledoux, than the first guy that they took out. It's like really Marty killing Ledoux sort of defined his career in a lot of ways, right? This like almost this fake hero story. Yeah. And I think that a huge part of him was like, okay, well, this is the only way to like rectify that. Like, even though it wasn't, necessarily a lie, like it was. He fucking murdered the dude, right? The guy got no trial. It was one of Marty's, really technically one of his weaker moments as a person and as a cop, and it ended up being this thing that sort of defined his career. And then he kind of goes out on a whimper after seeing what was an insane scene, dude. Oh my god, when they the thing that made him quit, right? The fact that like a tweaker microwaves his infant baby or whatever. But like
that was like,
oh my god,
that was it's like a really, like it's this dark image that you see, because you kind of see like the little baby in there. It's like you get it in that moment. Like the visual kind of adds to like the effect of like he just been on the job too long, and that was just like the last straw. Like you get it, and that's like a great moment to like make it real.
Yeah, and for the record, I love some kick-ass practical effects. I did not need that in my life. I did not need microwaved baby.
No, and I think part of it is there for the shock value of like to drive home the fact that he was just done at that point. And I think it works, and I don't particularly like shock value and stuff like for the sake of it, but I think in that context it worked for me. Even though it's not like, you don't want to see that, but like for his character, I think it's like like him saying it is different than actually seeing it. You'd be like, okay, I get it. I get why you would not want to do that anymore.
Yeah, it needed to be something completely fucked.
Yeah. Because I think, too, the show like this, there's so many descriptions of so many awful things. Like, sometimes, like, getting a little bit of a nudge in that direction, like, seeing the shit that they see is, like, adds a little weight to it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, by the way, they're real. They're really going through this horrible shit.
And I'm sure, based on the other stuff that's happened in the show, I'm sure that must have been a real thing. It sounds real enough to me. I'm sure something like that's happened somewhere. Not. I mean, I don't want to think about that, but I mean, like, I mean, like, what's his name? Nick Pizzato.
Oh, Pizzolato. I don't even know how to say it.
He really did his homework on like true crime stuff. I feel like he knows what he's doing and how to tie in all these elements that are realistic, if at times like bombastic, but they're like real enough to where it's like that could totally be reality for somebody,
I'm with you.
But yeah. So
I mean, we're basically at the point where he's, I was just talking about like what made Marty, it was just a reason he wanted that. We were talking about him looking through the files and like him being willing to do all that shit. Like it's more to him than just a case. Like I feel like this is sort of a like not just a career defining moment, but like a life defining moment for both of them. Yeah. Like, because especially after, and I think he alludes to this later, but like Rust at the end is it's not over. Like if there's one thing that was proven by that videotape and this like conspiracy that he's uncovered. It's that it's so big that like they can't, there's no way they're really going to be able to stop this forever. And I think they know that going in, that like, they've got the chance to maybe take out the dude who committed this particular crime that they've been investigating all this time.
Right.
But it's almost like it's more than just a case to them. It's like, okay, well, this is their chance to really do something like something that is super meaningful with whatever like energy they have left for this type of shit. You know what I mean? I'm rambling here.
No. But it's like shake the foundations of what's wrong with, society. And I think at the end it bums Russ out that he didn't really accomplish that. He like barely scratched the surface on a media scale. And that bugs him. And as it should. I mean, like, I don't know how it couldn't. To know that like there's so much evil going on like right in front of your face that most people don't even notice or couldn't notice. There's no way they could. But that, it'll never be known. It'll just fall into obscurity. All this pain and suffering that's just there.
Yeah, man. Well, and I guess so plot-wise, I mean, we're kind of at the point where they find out, right, that Marie Fontenot, when she went missing as a little girl, that this guy that they knew way back then, who I guess was just a deputy or like a detective, has now become a sheriff. And this dude reported
Steve,
that it was a report made in error or something. And so like they go, so by the way, I have to point out the actor that played this sheriff that they, we can talk about these scenes where they confront him. Did you recognize him?
He looked familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on it.
So the only reason that I recognized him is because he's in a show that I just watched that you recommended, a show called Deadwood.
Is he really?
He is the horse, the dude who gets kicked in the head by the horse, the asshole dude who takes over the stable, the livery. Remember, he's like super racist. His name is I think his name's Steve or something.
Yeah.
In the show.
Yeah.
But he's like the whole show in Deadwood. He's like hanging out in the poker saloon.
Yeah, he's just like a racist asshole.
Racist asshole. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him
he ends
vaguely.
up getting kicked in the head.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's like, I think with Deadwood too, it's like, like the big characters are covered in so much dirt and grime. Like it's hard to recognize them outside of. But I was like, I swear to God, I've seen that guy in something. I just don't know what it is.
Well, yeah, and this is 10 years later, so he's got a full head of gray hair and a gray beard, as opposed to just, I think he just had brown hair and a clean-shaven. He might have had a mustache in Deadwood, but dude, I recognized him immediately. I was like, no fucking way. And it's funny too because he's playing a complete piece of shit in this show too. I guess he's just got one of those faces,
Yeah, it was funny that you mentioned that because I thought when you said Deadwood, I was like, oh, was he Al's right-hand man, the guy with the long hair that works in the bar with him?
Oh no!
I mean,
I love that guy though.
Yeah, he's great. But it was like that was the first place my mind jumped to. I was like, oh, he kind of looked. No, but it's not him. But yeah, that sounds right. I need to go back and rewatch that show.
He gets kicked in the head, and they instead of letting him die, because like he gets kicked in the head and he's serious brain damage. He basically just becomes a vegetable.
Yeah.
But he's still awake, but he can't eat or drink or whatever. And somehow they keep him alive for like the last 3 episodes of the show. Like they just like push him around and.
Oh, dude, those last 3 episodes are depressing. Just because the show's over and it ends on such a depressing note, and then it's just over. it's so.
Yeah, man. And the movie helped with a little bit of closure, but there was still so much that I was not okay with being over. But this is not a podcast about Deadwood. I just had to point that out.
Blame HBO for that one. It's not Deadwood's fault.
Yeah. Yeah, so you get this great scene, right, where Marty decides to go golfing with the guy because, apparently he and Marty had an okay relationship, but Rust couldn't fucking stand him. Like most people Rust interacts with, they don't have a great experience with him.
Yeah.
So Marty goes golfing with him, and tries to tries to fish a little bit and get the info out and
coax a little information.
I think at the beginning, Russ was like, we're gonna have to bust out the what do you say, the jumper cables.
Yeah, the jumper
and
cables.
Marty's like, let me just try, and then very quickly when he realizes the guy's lying, he's like, this is a really cool moment. He calls him, he's like, bust out the jumper cables. That's exactly what he says.
I was like, fuck yeah, Marty.
It's on.
That was a cool moment for his character too, because he was like, I think back in the day he would have been like, play it more by the book, but now he's like totally on board with like what he's seen. He's just like, fuck it, dude.
Yeah.
This motherfucker's lying to me.
It's like you said, this is like the first moment where he decides to finally operate outside of the law.
Yeah.
Shit's about to get real.
And there's that like sense of, I say frontier justice, but just justice that's dealt out by those that, deem somebody for doing something wrong. And it's like, it can't be proven in the court of law necessarily, but they know, everybody knows that they did something wrong, and they're getting their justice, and it's really satisfying. I did want to mention just quickly that the scene with Maggie that Marty has when he goes to visit her.
Oh yeah, tense.
Yeah, it was just it was kind of a nice little sequence of just like humility from his part. He's just like coming in to check up on her a little bit, like before he goes off and
see how the girls are.
Yeah, and he's just like, he just seems like genuinely happy, and then Maggie can definitely tell that he's like about to get himself involved in something. And it's just like a little sweet moment where it's like, they've been divorced for a long time, but they obviously still care about each other, like as human beings and people, and like parents to their children, or whatever. Just a nice little moment. And yeah. Anyway, sorry not to get sidetracked, but I did like that scene.
No, that was big, and because I think this is kind of where, I mean, we're sort of at the point where episode 7 ends, right? Like,
there's still some stuff with Steve.
Yeah, what I miss?
With Steve, with the jumper cables thing, and he's like, we gotta question him some more, and then Marty goes out on his boat to go fishing with him a little bit. And
does that happen at the end of episode 7? I thought that was the beginning of 8.
I think that happens at the end. I think so.
Okay.
Pretty sure. Am I wrong? I don't know.
It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
But he goes out on his boat with Steve. That might have happened at the beginning of episode 8. Actually, now that I think about it. But anyway, doesn't matter. Anyway, his whole thing is just like still trying to probe him, and then he's like fucking with him, and then Rust is on the boat, and it's fucking amazing with a
Rust on a boat.
Yeah, and then he forces him to watch the videotape, which is great.
Oh God,
no. And then Marty's in the background just drinking a beer on the back of the boat, which I thought was a nice little touch.
So hardcore.
Doesn't want to watch, which I don't blame him. I wouldn't want to watch either. But yeah, and then you get him pretty much not confessing, but just kind of confirming what they already know about the file being like handed off, and somebody else like marking it void, and then he's just like, well, they promoted me, and then I did this, and then I did that.
Chain of command.
Yeah.
I can't. It's how this shit works, man.
Yeah, which is like, kind of like the Nazi thing, like at the Nuremberg trials. Not to get on a World War II thing, but like this is something I noticed. Is like at the
so hard not to.
At the Nuremberg trials, a lot of the officers were like, just following orders, chain of command, like all that stuff. Like I think that those are quotes that come up so often in those interviews, and it's like it's maybe a tired thing to say, but I mean, like, that is the easiest way to get people on board with whatever bullshit that you want them to do. Just like further their career, and just like, they're less willing to, make a fuss about anything.
Yeah, a lot of people like money a lot.
Yeah, and then they they have a great way to keep him quiet. He's like, I'm gonna come after you and stuff, and then they have the guy that owns the bar that Russ works at. They have him shoot a sniper at his car. which I thought was nice.
Yeah, dude, best character in the show, and also what a great acting gig to get. You notice he doesn't have a single line?
Yeah, I did notice. I was like, yep, that's, you know what, I like it.
Yeah, he's the owner of the bar that, and we gotta talk about this bar that Rust works at because it's fucking hilarious. Like, it's just like it seems like it's a bar like on a fishing pier or something. You know, just kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and there's never anyone there.
Yeah,
it's just him and the owner.
Yeah,
and I have so many questions.
I just like there's a scene where Maggie comes in like at the end of episode 7, I think. And the owner of the bar is just like passed out on the bar while like Russ is tending bar. And then Maggie walks in and like, you know, is like, you're not going to get Marty into any trouble, are you? And he's like, get out of here. You're classing up the joint. I thought that, yeah, it's a good line. I like it.
Yeah, or no, what is the first thing she says when she comes in? She's like, you look good, Russ, or something. And he's like, bullshit, or something. What did she say?
Yeah.
She's like, it's good to see you.
He's like, bullshit.
And he's like, bullshit. It's like the first words he says to her after, 15 years or whatever. Is just bullshit.
Yeah, and he gives her the right amount of what for. I was very happy with.
The right amount of what for?
Yeah, because she did use him. And I think there's a funny...
Yeah, she fucked up, man.
There's a funny thing that... I think I might be getting too deep into episode 8, but fuck it, I'm just going to say it now.
No, dude, hey, it's okay. There are no rules here.
Where Marty and Russ are driving in the car, and he's talking about like personal agency or something like that. He's like, we all have a choice in what we do, kind of thing. You remember that scene?
Yeah, totally.
Where they're like... oh gosh, where Marty asks him about their fight. He's like, "Were you holding back in our fight?" And he's really like thinking about it. He's like, you know, that's really insulting if that's what you're doing, kind of thing. And it's just they have this like great moment of honesty about the whole situation, and kind of like have a heart to heart about like what was going on at the time. And then like Russ pretty much admits it's like, you know, she was just using me to get to you, kind of thing. Like it had nothing to do with me, but you know, I still played my part in it. And he like takes responsibility for what he did, even though that he was used, which, you know, makes you kind of feel worse for him because he's still like having to bear the brunt of the responsibility of it.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just a great scene. Just like, I think, and Marty's like willing to listen and not shut him down. And he has this great line about like, he's like, we're all just sentient meat, you know? And like, I played my part and like anything else. And at the end of the scene, Marty's like, what's scented meat? And I was like, that's fucking great.
What's scented meat? See, the thing that cracked me up about that scene is like, here's Marty right after all these years, you know, it's like obviously Marty did it to himself in a roundabout way, right? But still, Russ banged his wife. It's like not cool. Yeah. And so, you know, there's a chance for Marty to really still be pissed about it. And he comes to Russ just really from a place of forgiveness and honesty and wanting to be honest about it. And Russ just can't not be a dick about it.
Yeah.
He's still just a dick about it.
Well, and I think he has a line too where he's like, I'm still mad at you. He's like, about what? And he's like, pushing a good-hearted woman out of your life like that. Like, he's still like, he's not even
pushing her to use your partner.
Yeah, he's like not even mad about like him being mad at him. He's mad about what he did to Maggie, which I think kind of speaks for everybody watching the show. It's like, you fucked her over pretty good. And she kind of deserved it, but she shouldn't have used Russ either. It was like kind of a fucked up thing to do to him, not necessarily to Marty.
Yeah, man. All kinds of fuckery.
Yeah, but anyway, we
fuckery afoot.
Got deep off track there. So I'm gonna backtrack to episode 7 just real quick because there was a little thing where they interviewed the old woman with dementia.
Oh yeah.
Which they uncover like a pretty big key.
Marty noticed. Well, the whole reason they interview her, right, is because Marty notices that they're like looking through the photos of everything, and Marty sees the. Oh no! Wait! No, I'm wrong. Go ahead. This is the different woman. This is the woman in the Section 8 housing. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, and oh shit, where was I? Oh yeah, and she uncovers.
Sorry, I threw you off.
No. Yeah, I was just So they talk to the mechanic guy, and he mentions the guy with the scars, and he's like, they're looking for some connection to Tuttle and the guy with the scars at this point.
Right.
And they end up interviewing this old woman. I can't even remember how they get there. I think it was from the mechanic guy. Like she was like.
No, I remember. They were looking through records for I think it was through the mechanic. Yeah, how did they find it?
Because I think that's a scene that comes pretty quickly afterwards, but I can't remember why. Because he's just talking about.
Damn it, yeah, I can't remember either.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they find this woman, and she reveals that like the kid with the scars was like Tuttle's grandchild or something like that. And
grandchild. You find out that Grandpa Tuttle had this very particular thing where once he had taken a woman's virginity, he was pretty much no longer interested in her.
Right.
So he had a lot of kids by a lot of different women.
Yeah, like once he had a woman, like she was like sullied or something like that, and it's like and I was like, that you're going after one particular kind of woman, a virgin, and like, there's only one place you can go with that. I feel like, you're gonna go
pretty much.
Go back to bad stuff, very bad stuff.
Bad stuff.
But she has this line at the end. They uncover that piece of information, and she's like, "Death is not the end. Rejoice." And then Russ comes out, and he's like, "I sure hope that old lady was." Yeah. He's like, "About what? About death not being the end." It's just like very nihilistic. It's a great Russ line.
Yeah, good shit.
But yeah.
But they get some huge info in that interview.
Yeah. Which really
about the scarred man.
Yeah, which really kind of ties the whole thing together. And then there was something about the painted house that.
Yeah, so basically what they discovered, I think it was a house that was near the crime scene of where one of the bodies was found.
Yeah.
And Marty noticed that in one of the photos several years apart, it looked like it was the photo taken of, it was like two different crimes had occurred around that house, or bodies had been found around that house.
Yeah.
And in one of the older photos it looked a certain way, and in like the newer photo it looked like it just gotten a new coat of green paint. And it was around the same time that a woman who had escaped him, I think, claimed that the spaghetti monster drawing that she had made, he had green ears. So, and I remember even the first time that I saw this scene thinking, man, that's a stretch.
Right.
Like, I know they're combing through all the evidence and looking for anything they could possibly find that would be a lead to find this guy.
Right.
But it seemed like quite a stretch to... Either way, it's clearly a pivotal moment in the plot, because they hunt down the owner of this house in her nursing home and find out that the guy who painted her house happens to be the guy that they are looking for, the man with the scars.
Yeah, and she just happens to remember that he had scars like 20 years ago or something.
Yeah, there was some very convenient rememberings occurring, specifically from women with dementia, that really helped them.
Yeah, but
close all the loops.
It's fine. You know what? It's fine.
Yeah, I am totally okay with that. Does not hurt the show in any way.
But they try to tie it back in. They like go through like the tax records and try to relate it back to like who was working on the house. He like wrote it as a write-off. They like try to add an element of realism to it. So it's like it works well enough to where you can like kind of suspend disbelief, because they like do a little bit of like investigative work to get there, to tie it all back together.
Yeah. I'm fine with suspending that belief.
Yeah. It's just, it's a little convenient, but it's okay. I think the show's earned a little convenience at this point.
It has. Absolutely.
But
anyways, yeah.
Oh, and Marty does meet with one of the interviewers, which I thought was an interesting scene.
Oh yeah, the guy that he can read.
Yeah, the guy he can read. And for a second, I thought he was like, oh, is he going behind Russ's back, meeting with this guy secretly?
Yeah, it seems that way at first.
But he basically is just like, it's like, basically lets him know, is like, we're onto some shit. Will you be there if we call? Or I can give this to some other dude, like, are you going to be there? And he's like, yeah, we'll be right behind you, kind of thing. So it's...
Yeah, because I think, Marty knows. I think they both know that to reveal this, they can't really be the ones to do it. They're not in law enforcement anymore. They need somebody that they can trust to give the info to. And yeah, it was like a very necessary thing Marty, I think he knew he had to do.
Yeah. Just a nice little touch to the scenes is like just letting them know it's like, hey, shit's about to go down. Just be ready for us to call you.
Well, and for the record, oh wait, you know what? I think I know how. Doesn't the 7th episode end with those two interviewers? They're like driving around looking for something. I forget what they're looking for.
It does,
but they come across the man with the scars on his, and you find out that he is the dude that was on the lawnmower, George fucking Remus.
George Remus.
God, it was so hard for me not to tell you.
Yeah. No, in one of the previous episodes, you're like, that was George Remus. I was like, oh shit, I didn't even recognize him. It's like, I didn't think anything of it, but when he came back, I was like, oh shit, he's got to be the killer if I'm seeing him again.
Yeah. Well, and part of me was like mad that I even pointed that out in the first place because I was worried you'd go deeper with it and be like, wait, why would an actor of that caliber have such a tiny single scene in this show?
See,
but I'm glad you didn't dig any deeper.
Well, that was the thing because Eli showed up and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, like Boardwalk Empire was shooting at the same time. Maybe it was just like HBO being like, hey, we have all these other actors that you can use at your disposal.
Yeah.
So I thought it was something like that because there were a couple of other like HBO regular type of people that showed up in the show. And I was like, oh, maybe it was just like, they weren't too obvious about it, I don't think. And
yes, thank you, Sheriff Eli Thompson, for masking his true identity.
And I think that's,
with your presence.
I think that's the thing too, is just because it's like, I think that's only something you and I would pick up on. Like if you haven't seen Boardwalk Empire, there's not like your first thought. It's like, oh, who the fuck is that guy?
Right. Yeah, it was a leg up. It was a leg up for sure. But
I guess we got to talk about George Remus because I'm never gonna remember the actor's name. I'm sorry, whoever you are out there.
No, the character's name is actually, you know what? They don't ever find out his name. He's just the man with the scars because when they find the address, because they find out that he and his father basically had a maintenance business that worked for the parish or the church, and they would go around doing work for people in the church community, right? Like that's their cover, that's their family business. So that ties it in with all the Tuttle churches, and you kind of you get this terrifying scene where he's painting like a schoolhouse. He was like painting a schoolhouse while these little kids are out at recess, and you realize like. Yeah. Here's this twisted fuck who's just had basically unlimited access to these school children for however long his family's been doing this shit. Yeah. And really fucked up, scary shit, but awesome. Yeah. That we finally get the reveal. And but what I was saying is you find out that he's like there's not even any record of him being born. Like his dad is on record of the address of the house, but he's completely off the grid. Like he basically you never even find out his first name. He's like not even a person, Yeah. It
gets revealed at the end of the episode. Yeah, it's like we don't even know who the fuck he is. He's got no. He's only got a record that somebody else filed taxes under. That he was one of the guys, I think, and that's it. Like he doesn't have any official anything else. It seems like.
Yeah, it was just like Tuttle and Sons. Or no, he didn't have the last name Tuttle because he was like one of the other grandchildren. It was I forget their fucking last name. Like I want to say Schneebly. It's definitely not Schneebly. I can't remember.
And I think that was like an effort to keep him like out of the family lineage and like keep any conspiracy from happening or something like that. Because he's like a cousin or something because he has his own dad who he's got like tied up in like a shed somewhere.
Yeah, and I still, that's we got to talk about that because his first real scene where he's where you first see him in his house, right? And it's just this, hoarder, cluttered, disgusting home.
And he's like fucking his half sister in a really disgusting way in the first scene.
Yeah, fucking his mentally handicapped half sister.
Yeah.
And who wants to make the flowers on him.
Oh yeah, make the flowers. I forgot about that.
Oh God, dude.
Oh yeah, great television.
Yeah, but I didn't understand if his dad. Yeah, great writing. But like his dad is tied up in a shed, but I couldn't tell if he was alive or dead.
I think
it
he was
seemed like
already,
he was dead at first.
I think he was already dead because he was like,
okay.
He was saying something. He's like, I think you'll like start to spoil after like a day or two, but I'm gonna keep you tied up.
Yeah, but
here
he
for now.
clearly just died recently.
Right. Yeah, he's not like
we get
decomposing
no
or
info
anything.
on that.
Like he's still, but I mean, like, and that's the thing too. It never gets explained, so it's like it couldn't just be some random dude. Also, it doesn't even have to be his dad. Like, you know what I mean? It just could be some dude that looked like his dad. So, I don't know. It's kind of up in the air what that is or what that means, or if it's just like set decoration to make him seem more insane.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, either way, fucking bananas.
Yeah.
But moving on.
But yeah, then you get, pretty much the raid on the house, where they just kind of show up.
Epic raid.
Yeah.
And we get another dog death, which I just really didn't need, man. What is up with these shows killing dogs? What do you want me to feel?
Was there a dog death before this in the show?
No, but I feel like we watched a movie recently. Oh, it was Species. Or no, it was The Relic, where all those German shepherds get killed.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Dog deaths are just not cool, man.
Yeah, I think one of the dogs died off screen or something like. Yeah. But yeah, the dog got shot in the head. I actually wrote that down. I was like, why the dog? I think.
Well, no, and I think he axed the dog in the head just because the dog was barking, like it would reveal his location.
I couldn't even tell. My TV's so shitty.
Yeah, because when they first get there, and like Marty's like, I'll go inside and see if I can find a phone because they want to be able to radio for backup. Marty goes up to the house and Rust goes to the shed, and the dog like sprints out of the house and runs to where the bad guy is like hiding behind the shed, and it's barking and like revealing his location. So I think he axes it to shut it up.
Yeah, which I guess makes sense. But there's this one funny line where Russ catches George Remus for a second, and he's like, on your knees, and then he's like, no, and then just runs away.
Dude, it's so great. Well, and it's honestly completely terrifying. Like the first shot where he's just standing in the back in the woods, like it's horrifying. Like it freaked me out.
Yeah, it's really unsettling. And I got to be honest, like that whole sequence of them, like Marty going into the house, and then like I was like, oh, dude, they're gonna die. Like both of them are gonna die. Like this is how the show's gonna end. I'm gonna be really upset about it. And
you were feeling it? You were feeling some mortality?
No, I really cared. I was like, I don't want either one of them to die. And if they die from some stupid way, I'm going to be really upset. But, so Marty goes into the house and berates the mentally handicapped girl, which I was kind of like, she doesn't know what's going on. Please don't do that. But he needed to find where the phone was. It made sense.
He needed to find the phone.
Yeah.
Wait, and can we talk about that room? He finds this room, right? That's like, it looks like there's a bathtub in the middle of the room and there's like clothes everywhere. I couldn't figure out what was happening in that shot. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't really understand what I was looking at. And even after seeing it a second time, I still don't really understand
she wasn't
what I was
in
looking at.
Like the bathroom? I thought she was just like in a little like bathroom or something.
She was like, so he walks into the room. Yeah, she's like in the bathroom in the room, but like in the middle of the room, there's this like old bathtub, and there's like piles of clothes all around it. And I was like, what is the like meaning of this? I don't know. Maybe it's
just to show we're
just gonna put as much weird shit in this house as possible.
Yeah, just all this weird, fucked up, uncanny valley shit as we can.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, so he finds the phone, and then Rust follows George for what seems like an eternity, because I was literally like, oh shit, he's going to die. And then,
dude, but wait, before you get, I want to point out that scene you just talked about where he's like, no. Like, it's so funny, dude. Like, imagine.
I literally bust out laughing.
Like, we just imagine, like, so I'm sure that guy, I don't, let's just call him bad guy number one, right? Public enemy number one. I'm sure he imagined a million times what he might say if he ever got confronted by law enforcement or if anyone ever caught him. And so it's like you see him standing there so ominously, and you expect that when Rust is like freeze, that he's gonna have some kind of like crazy, creepy, cryptic thing he says, or like remain there, or not say anything. But for him to just like a 5-year-old just be like no, and then run, like it's so fucking perfect. And it made me so happy that got you laughing because I was dying too.
I loved it, because it was just so perfect, and it's like it's funny in the way that's so dark and so up my alley. It's so great. It's just something you don't expect, because you expect like a John Doe from Seven. It's like, I'm here, detective, or something like that.
Right.
And he's just like, no, and he just runs away. It's just so great. And he gets a couple
and you
of
get
lines.
some of that John Doe a little bit later. Yeah.
When he's like in his domicile, and he's like, what is he? He's like a little preacher or something like that. He keeps calling him
little priest.
Little priest.
Come find me, little priest.
Yeah, which is really creepy if read into all the child molestation stuff going on.
Yeah. You were talking about Rust, very slowly and full of tension. He's chasing him down through this elaborate. Like, we got to talk about this structure, right? Because I was trying to figure out like what it is. Clearly, this is like in the back of the property, and it almost seems like a really, really old church, like an old, some kind of really old church building that's like partially buried in the ground and like not even really visible. From above ground.
Yeah,
so
I
it's
was
like
thinking
you can
that
see clearly why it was no one ever found it.
Yeah, because it was interesting you say that, because I thought about that too, because like the set is so elaborate and so long that I was like, it must have been underground, because it's so like you would see it, because it would be gigantic. It would be bigger than the house that they were in.
Yeah.
Like if it was above ground.
It's completely surrounded by woods and half buried.
Yeah, so it's like almost like a little bunker, but there are parts of it that are like, that have either windows or like little like openings where the light's coming in from. So it's a really bizarre set, because like you don't really know exactly where it is, like geographically, in terms of like the fact that Marty finds it is like, like he can kind of follow the voice, but I mean like actually finding the entrance to that place must have been difficult.
Well, it's funny you say that, because like I the first time I saw it, you're so focused on like what's happening and the impending danger that you're not super focused on little details, but I was really paying attention on this watch through.
Yeah.
And very quickly when he chases, when he starts to chase him and he sees him standing there in the woods and he goes after him, pretty quickly after he gets through that clearing, there's like a path. It's like it's not necessarily an unmarked path, but like in the woods before they get to the structure, it's marked. Like it's marked with stuff that's hanging. There's like almost like almost like a grass maze that if you weren't really looking would almost just look natural, but as soon as you start to really pay attention, you can tell like, okay, this is an area that has been treaded and walked through and like curated for a very long time.
Right.
And something that like this guy was regularly going back and forth. So I remember thinking that too the first viewing, that it seemed a little unbelievable that he'd find it so easily when the guy was pretty far ahead of him.
Yeah.
But I really think it must have been kind of hard to miss. Like this was, this is clearly the headquarters ritual site where all of these fucking people have been doing this shit for however long.
Yeah.
And it's just on this dude's property.
Yeah. Yeah, and like all the like weird underground sex cult stuff, I think unintentionally with the show, like it ended up adding like a bit of longevity to the show too, because like with not to get into like a whole different thing, but I mean like with all the Epstein stuff, I think like that whole conspiracy of like all that kind of stuff like being so large in the media now really makes the show, I think, like hit a lot harder at the end with all this stuff. and then it ended up getting buried
seems
again.
less like a conspiracy and more like true crime.
Yeah, and like a kind of like a subtle reality that, you know, is just like part of like American culture to a certain extent. And I mean, maybe, you know, all cultures, if you want to, you know, go that far, but I mean, I don't really know. But I mean, like, it's just like,
Yeah.
you know, something that's always been underlying for a really long time that we all completely detest, but it's just still happening somehow. And it's just a conspiracy. Then we're just all getting gaslit into believing it's not really there, but it actually is. So I mean, like, it adds an element of mystery and intrigue that is like true to life in a way. And the fact that it doesn't really get solved at the end, I really like, actually. Like, it just makes it seem like an ongoing problem that you kind of have to...
it runs too deep.
That you, like, have to come to terms with on your own... Like, in your own terms, like, how do you deal with that? But also, like, to be like, you know, this shit's happening, you know? Like, you have to be omnipresent and, like, cognitive person, rational thinking to be, like, to stop it, you know? Like, as a collective... force for good. I don't know.
For sure. And I want to talk a little bit about Carcosa, right? Because this is this sort of thing that gets briefly mentioned, but not really like not into any kind of real detail. But clearly, there's some kind of like ancient voodoo Mardi Gras deity that these people are like doing this all in tribute to. Yeah. And you know, the lady that has dementia that they interview first, who like worked at the old Tuttle house or whatever, she's talking about this deity that's like the man who eats time is Carcosa. Yeah. And
it's like reverse.
I really want to know more about that.
Oh, it's almost like from that description, it's like reverse aging. Like, you know, like we do these rituals, like we won't die or something. You know,
I think that's what it is. Yeah, like consuming innocent. Yeah, just some fucked up.
Like promotes longevity,
shit, man.
Which is funny because like, Tuttle, Billy Lee was like murdered. You know, like it produced no longevity in his life, which is like kind of ironic and funny to think about, and in a darkly ironic way.
Yeah, he got what he fucking deserved.
Yeah. And like even like,
but anyway,
Marty shooting Reggie in the head. It's like, yeah, it was poor police work and really fucked up the case for like 10 or 15 years. But you know, it's like, you know, he got what he deserved also. Yeah.
Well, and that kind of leads us right to our penultimate moment of the show.
Oh, which is just a lovely ending. Honestly, I loved it. It was kind of
hard. And I say penultimate because I actually just recently learned what that word really means.
Oh, I don't.
And that I've been using it wrong my whole life.
I don't even know what penultimate means. Tell me, please.
So yeah, I've always heard people say penultimate, and you know, without knowing what it means, you think, okay, that just means like ultimate, right? Like the defining moment of something, the penultimate moment. Yeah. What it actually means is the moment before the defining moment, the penultimate. So I was referring to the epic showdown between Rust, Marty, and he who must not be named. Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about that. Yeah, for sure.
Dude.
I was almost going to gloss right over that.
Yeah, no. I mean, so it starts with basically the guy rushing him, right? He rushes Rust, and it comes out of nowhere. Yeah, because Russ kind of emerges into this chamber, this like huge chamber with a huge open sunroof, right? Mm-hmm. And the dude rushes him and shanks him right off the bat. Yeah. With this fucking big ass knife.
He's immediately coming for disadvantage.
Huge. Yeah, is a big dude, and he stabs him right in the gut, and then lifts him up into the air. And starts to gut him, basically. Like, I don't know if you remember that, but he moves the knife up like several inches. I mean, just guts him.
No, I was for sure he was.
You just don't survive.
I was like for sure he was dead. I was like, oh shit, he's gonna die right there. Anyway, I'm sorry.
It's like there's no. And realistically, I don't think anyone could survive that. Cause we'll talk about that in a second. But he, you know, Rust uses all of his fucking strength to literally headbutt the dude into letting him go, which was so fucking hardcore.
Yeah. Like several times, like to the point of like breaking the guy's nose, probably.
Yeah. I can't imagine how painful that would be. But I guess when you literally have a knife in your gut, like disemboweling you, that's, you headbutting somebody's probably the least of you're gonna do anything you can.
Yeah, you've got two options: either just die or do something. Like, is all you got to do.
Yeah. So he headbutts him. He drops Russ, and Marty shows up right about this time, and you're like, okay, thank God Marty's gonna show up and just shoot him. Yeah. And then he just doesn't he like throw an axe at Marty's chest?
Yeah, he hits him right in the chest.
Just boom, right in the sternum. Another like obviously mortal wound.
Yeah, and I was like, oh shit, they're both going to die. That's how this is going to end. And
yeah, just that fast. But what I loved about it was that it wasn't this drawn out 20-minute battle action sequence. Like the whole thing happens in like 20 seconds.
Yeah, which is nice because I mean realistically that's probably what would have happened. But yeah, it's good too because it's like they both come at it from a disadvantage. Like you think they're gonna be like come out on top and be the heroes, but like they really get fucked up really badly. And it creates that bit of serious tension where you're like, I don't even know if anybody's gonna make it out of this alive. Like I think they're all gonna, which I'm really glad ultimately that didn't happen, like that they didn't die. And it was just because I think that just would have been, I needed like a new balance. I needed something afterwards.
You needed closure.
Yeah, you need that closure. And I think if you don't get it, like you just feel robbed of these characters and like their moments in the aftermath, which you really desperately need in the show. I think you need some closure on what's happened.
Yeah. So here we are. We've got Russ on the ground bleeding out. We've got Marty on the ground with an axe in his chest.
Yeah, and how
does it end, Sumner?
Yeah, Marty comforts him. And by the way, so Russ has got the knife in him, and Marty comes over to like comfort him and be like, "Hey, it's okay, like we're fine, we're gonna make it." And then Russ starts pulling.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
Wait, before you get there.
I'm sorry.
I was leaving the final move to you.
Oh, when George gets shot in the head by Rust. I'm sorry, I almost forgot that.
Yeah, man. Do you think it's all over? He's about to do a finishing blow on Marty, and Rust with the clutch headshot from behind.
Gets him right in the fucking back of the head.
Hardcore.
Man,
anyways,
I'm sorry. I thought you were leading me into the next part. I forgot.
It was a lob, dude. It was a lob. It was an alley-oop.
And I fucking swung and a miss.
That's okay. But anyway, you were saying he pulls the fucking knife out. I was mad about that too.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, he gets shot in the head gracefully, and then Marty crawls over and comforts him, and then Russ starts pulling the knife out, which I was like, why are you doing that? Don't touch it. Like,
yeah, just the only thing. It's the dumbest thing. You see it in every fucking movie.
It's the only thing keeping you alive.
The only thing it's the only thing keeping you from bleeding out. It's just so stupid.
And it wasn't even like the guys are right around the corner. It's like, I'm pretty sure it would have taken at least like an hour or two for the police to get there to even get to them. So
no, yeah, and to be fair, maybe Rust was just having this like moment of mortality where he was like, "There's no way I'm getting out of this alive. I'm gonna pull this fucking knife out of me."
Yeah,
like you could rationalize it that way.
I think that's a realistic interpretation because of his last monologue. He's just like, like I'm just pulling the cord here. So it could have been like a kind of a suicide moment.
Yeah, like an I'm ready moment.
Yeah, which is actually, I think it's fitting for his character, so I don't even think it's wrong. It was just like, in that moment, you want him to live, so you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Stop doing that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so they, they get back into the hospital, and Marty's in, he's recovering from his wounds in the hospital bed, and then he's alerted that Rust is, like, in a coma, pretty much, and, unresponsive, and, that's when Maggie and the daughters come in and comfort Marty, after he got got fucked up. And I think her new husband is there brief, but you only see like the back of his head. He just kind of like walks away, like in the background.
Yeah.
And but you get this really great moment of like realization for Marty where he's like in the bed and he's like thinking about everything that happens, and he's like he's like I'm so happy that you're here. And they ask like, how are you doing? He's like I'm fine, I'll be fine, or something like that. And then he just starts bawling, and it's just like, oh shit, dude, like that kind of got me.
It's
for a
hard to
second.
hold back the tears. Yeah,
that got me for a second. I was just like shit, dude. To me, I was just like, he's just realizing how much he fucked his life up. And like, you know, his daughters are there and they love him, but you know, he's like, the family unit is like not even his anymore a little bit. And it's just like, he's just like totally kind of alone. And then it just cuts and it just fades out of that scene. And I was like, dude, that's, you know, damn. Yeah, it's powerful stuff. Really good.
powerful television.
Yeah. And then you get Rust in his bed, like sitting up, and you get kind of like the whole thing is like they caught on the news. They're like, well, we caught the guy, but the Tuttles are like, you know, they have no connection to this guy, so it all kind of just goes cold from there. It's like, we got our man,
Yep.
but not really, you know.
Not really. Well, we got our man, but we've solved nothing.
Yeah, it's all just you know, for naught. And then and then you just get this really touching moment with just Marty just being there for Rust and like being like a good friend, not even a partner, just like they're actually, you know, genuinely friends, which is just really kind of touching to see. Like in an episode filled, or like whole series filled with like them like at each other's throats, to actually see them be like friends is just so nice to see.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. And then you just get some really great monologues, because Marty gets out of the hospital and he gives Rust a little present when he like wheels him out in front of the hospital. And he gives him just some cigarettes in like a nicely wrapped box, and he's like, "What, are we getting married?"
Yeah, it's his Camel Blues, man.
Yeah. He's like, "I would have wrapped a nicer ribbon if I thought we were getting married." You know, he's just being playful. And then what was that line where he's like wheeling him away so he can smoke his cigarettes like in peace? Or he's like,
yeah, it was weird. He was like, I want to get out from under this roof or something. I was trying to figure out what that was.
Yeah, but he's like, Marty starts like pushing him away. He's like, I can roll my own goddamn wheelchair. Like two old crotchety men,
That's what they are, man. That's all they are in the end.
Just bickering with each other. I loved it. And then, you get Rust's monologues about his, you know, brush with death and like being in a coma.
Yeah,
and all
his
that
epic
stuff.
NDE.
Which I wrote down most of it, I think. But I just wrote down my favorite
Really?
parts. So I'm just gonna read it to you because
All right,
I
hit
loved
me.
it.
Do it.
So he's talking about like when he was under and like thinking he was gonna die. He was like, you know, I had like a vague awareness in the dark. I could feel my definitions fading. Deeper, there was a warmth, like a substance. In that moment, I knew my daughter was there waiting for me. And then he talks about his daughter, and just like, little tear came down in that moment. You see him like really open up and be, just like the shell is cracked and he's just, completely wide open. And it like hits you because he's actually just being vulnerable.
Yeah, it
Marty.
really is the first time in the whole show that he's completely vulnerable with Marty.
Yeah, and it's a really powerful
or with
moment.
himself, really.
Yeah, because I think he's just been hiding that the whole time. I think especially being undercover, I think that did a number on him being open and vulnerable and honest. Like, he can be outwardly vulnerable about his views about the universe and stuff, but like who he is as a person, I don't think he ever talks to anybody about, other than him and Maggie. I think that's about it in the show, at least.
Right, in the show, yeah.
But yeah, and then what does he say? It's just like it's just one story, It's the oldest story, the light versus dark, and then you get the what does Marty say? Is that it appears dark has a lot more territory than the light. And then Russ gets his one positive thing to say. He's like, no, I think you're wrong about that. It's like, once there was only dark. You asked me, light's got the upper hand, with the stars in the sky, and that's the way it ends. And it's beautiful.
It really is such a fucking epic metaphor. I mean, it's the perfect metaphor for their entire journey, right? It's like everything that they went through over all this time, this one case that sort of defined not only their careers, but their lives and their relationships with everyone. And they've done all they are physically capable of doing to make this situation right. And they're nowhere close. They're just these, stars in the void of nothing. But I love it. It wraps it around, right? Like, you can't think that way because there was a time when there was only nothing but dark, and stars are starting to make some headway. It's beautiful, man. It's simple and beautiful and fucking elementary and perfect.
Yeah, I mean, the way to tie back in, like, all the true crime stuff with, like, an existential drama about characters going through, midlife crisis, or just even, like, existential dread about the universe. Like, one guy's going through, like, a midlife crisis, like, doesn't value his family, ends up losing them. And then a guy that's already lost his family, like, seeing the value in other things or not seeing the value in anything. He, like, goes through these two different extremes. It's like, just somehow, like, the two of them coming together, like, in the end is, like, just a really beautiful, like, I don't want to say love story because it's not that. It's just like, it's just a beautiful.
It is a love story.
Yeah, it's a love story of just like just connection and just being there for somebody that just, like, goes beyond words, kind of. But I mean, like, they have beautiful words to tie it together too. It's just a beautiful show, which is not something I thought I would have said about it, but it really is. Like, I think the show is it's one of the best just written pieces of fiction I've seen. I loved it. I loved it all the way through.
I'm so happy, man. We did it.
Yeah.
We did it. I can't tell you how enjoyable it was to finally get to share this show with somebody, because I've not been able to convince anyone to watch it with me.
Yeah, and I feel bad it's taken me this long to actually watch it, because it's just I feel like I just like all the elements into this, but I think on paper you just be like, cop show, whatever. But it's just so much more than that, and it's hard to describe to people without spoiling elements of it.
Yeah, True Detective is a masterpiece. It's okay, Sumner. It is a masterpiece that found you. It didn't need you to find it,
It's true, yeah. And I will never watch any of the other seasons because I just don't want them to touch. It's like, you got a beautiful, like, bit of chocolate ice cream, and then there's all these pieces of shit that just want to become toppings on it, and I just don't want that to happen.
Yeah, and it sucks because if the problem is the show is so good that there's the monkey brain part of you that's just like, I have to have more. And you think, okay, well, how bad can the other seasons really be? And that's your first mistake.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I can't do it.
Although, for the record, if you absolutely have a hankering that cannot be quenched, season 3 is the only other season that I would even remotely recommend.
Yeah.
And it retains a lot of what made this season great, without all of the things that made this season a masterpiece. Like, season 3 is just a good season of television. It's a good story, but it's not. It's like it doesn't even touch this.
Just like a solid storytelling kind of thing.
Yeah, and you could tell they kind of, like, after season 2, hit in all the wrong ways. They kind of panicked and were like, okay, we just need to return to form as much as possible.
Yeah.
And I think it worked in some ways and didn't in others. But anyway, yes, dude, this has been awesome to watch with you.
Well, I was gonna
fucking glorious.
I was gonna say it was funny that you mentioned like technically good kind of thing, because I just watched Dune Part 2 tonight.
Right.
Which, I'm gonna just talk about this for a second, just because we're here.
Fuck it, do it.
And we got a platform of some kind that somebody could hear. in, millions of years or something like that. I don't know.
Hey, we've got 9 followers on Spotify, Sumner.
Hell yeah.
This is serious business.
Hell fucking yeah. But, so you saw the first Dune, right?
Yes, years ago, and I remember very little.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember enough. Like, I remember thinking it was pretty good.
So, I mean, like, it's, the first part is, like, pretty serviceable to, like, the overall plot of the thing. But, it's basically just build up for part 2. Like, part 2 just really, like, lays everything out and, like, does the thing. But I was thinking about what you said, just, like, something being serviceable to the plot, because, like, that's the way I feel about the director of the movie, who did Arrival. You remember seeing Arrival?
Yeah, I loved Arrival.
Yeah, and that's a good movie. And then he did like Prisoners and like other stuff like that. But it was like when I was watching it, I was just really like absorbed in the fact that like, it was like a big Hollywood production, but with like a really like artsy kind of style, like very minimalistic lighting kind of things, and like I don't know, just like different hues of kind of things. And I was just watching it, I was just like, oh, this really, because you like watch like Marvel movies or Avenger movies or something like that, and there's like all this like bombastic, virtuosic, like in your face kind of shit, and like we gotta have like loud explosions and shit here. It was really refreshing to see this in the context of like just simplicity. Like everything is like done in the sake of like the specific scene that's going on. And I think there's something to like just simplicity for the sake of the story, and not like trying to do all this like overly like ambitious, crazy stuff. And that's like kind of like a thing that's like lacking with like other stuff. Like, cause like in True Detective, like the first season, it's so simple and so laid back and like just not obtrusive in any way. Like it doesn't like, there's not like these crazy camera craning shots or like making that like, a director made this, and like being like,
Yeah.
We're going to have this push in here, the zoom here, or like, like all this crazy, like everything is done very under the surface. And that's one of the things I like about it. Just like the simplicity of the storytelling. Like it's like the faith in the script being good enough that you don't have to telegraph everything that you're doing at any given moment. You can let the audience's mind rest and just really absorb the material. And when I watched this movie tonight, I was really like taken with that. I was like, oh, it's like, it's not even intellectual, but it's just like you can just like sit back and just absorb it in a different way. And like as I get older, I think I really appreciate that more than like some in your face, like really like kinetic style, telling you where to look and telling you what to think at any given moment. Like someone behind the camera being like, this is where you should look, this is how you should feel, this is how you should do this. It's just like, it's just, it's just, sometimes it's too much. Like if you're not Martin Scorsese, like I don't want you to, don't fuck with it. Like you don't know what you're doing.
Right, and it can be done well, and
it
I know
can
that
be
you
done
can
well.
appreciate it when it's done well. But
I
think what you're saying is movies like this and shows like this prove that you don't need to do any of that.
Yeah, and like I think if you're not genuinely a virtuosic filmmaker, you can't pull that off. There's very few people. I mean, like Scorsese and maybe like Paul Thomas Anderson have ever pulled that off, and there are other people that have been able to do it too. But I mean, like just like off the top of my head. But I think there is something to be said for just simple, fundamental storytelling that, from a director's standpoint, and like cinematography and stuff like that. And that is one thing I really valued about watching the show. Is just like, oh, this is just a good story. I'm just really enveloped in what's happening, and like the acting's good, directing's good, script's good. Just everything about it was just done right. And they took the care into all those different elements to make it what it was. So, yes, masterpiece. I love True Detective Season 1.
Yes! Masterpiece! The masterpiece.
The masterpiece. Got to find a masterpiece to pay the rent.
To pay the rent.
Anyway, that's my long-winded way of saying I love the show.
Dude, and there's nothing I could even add. Like you summed it up perfectly. It's I am. It's tough because it sets a pretty high bar. Well, it's just another great. It's a great TV show. There's a lot of great TV out there.
And to say that, I mean, I think that's where the bar should be set, and I think most people should raise their bar because I think most.
Yeah, thank you.
Like, like standard media, like people that aren't in it for like the art sake of it, the people that are in it for like the business have like not raised their bar in a really long time, so they're like comfortable throwing out shit. So I think people as a whole should raise their bar. I don't think it's pretentious. Just you'll get better shit.
No, just do better. Make better shit.
If you expect higher quality, people will make it. I promise you.
Yep. Yeah, man. Well, it's so you said it's a masterpiece, so I'm assuming your rating is 0 beers.
Yeah, 0 beers for sure. I mean, like, but
0 beers.
Watching Russ Cole drink a beer makes you want to drink a beer. So I mean, like,
it does. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even though he's a raging alcoholic, but he's very intellectual also. So follow your heart on that one.
Yeah, man. Hey, he's just drinking to see what he needs to see, man. It's part of his process.
Yeah. And I do like that about it. I mean, like, he's got like the tragic backstory about his daughter, but like they never make it seem it's like with like detective shows, like, oh, I'm drinking about my dead wife or my dead daughter. Like, they never make it seem like that's the reason that he's an alcoholic. Like, he's got way more fucked up issues beyond that. I just like that's like that's like the kicker that like kind of brought him over the edge. Like, that's the thing he like still thinks about. It's not just that thing, because you could be really lazy. Bless you.
Oh, sorry. I don't think I've ever sneezed on this podcast. That was a big moment.
Hey.
But yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, no, just yeah, because I mean, like in shows like that, it's really easy to have a lazy backstory. It's like, my daughter's dead, and that's why I'm an alcoholic. But there's like so much depth to him. Anyway, I'm still talking about the show. We can end this now. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm just drunk.
Yeah, we need to end it because I seriously know we could talk about this shit forever. But I fucking love you. Thanks for watching True Detective with me.
Yeah, I loved it.
And we'll be back next week. It's time to get back to movies, and I think it's Sumner's term.
Oh, I'm so excited
to give me a movie, and yeah, I mean, things are gonna get real. Things are gonna get back to normal.
Yeah, no, I've got like 7 right now that I want to show you, and I got to figure out which ones they are, or figure out which ones I want to show you.
Sweet. Well, that's it for this week's episode of One Guy's Seen It. My name is Jeff.
My name is Sumner.
And remember,
every movie's better with 0 beers. If you're watching True Detective.
0 beers.
One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't. First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk.